I guess we're talking to Gohan because technically he hasn't been banned from this show yet. So, hi, Gohan. Nice to see you again.
How's it going, y'all?
It's going.
Yeah. So you took us up on the pro-abortion argument. You're right here in Texas, and I guess the first question is, do you think that we should be legislating basically a witch hunt? Should we be legislating laws that enable people to, call in on their neighbors and sink them? I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a secret police type of situation. Do you think we should live in that kind of world?
No, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of a bounty system. That kind of sounds a little like a 1940s Germany to me.
Just a lot of bit, right?
Yeah.
Or like some Soviet system. I mean, okay, so you're not calling to back up SB 8. You're calling because you want to have a general argument about abortion. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're putting this in the right bubble here. So,
Sure.
It says that you're religious. Do you consider yourself a religious person?
I do, but before I get into the argument, I just want to say I've been looking a lot for good shows. I really like both you and the on Talk Heathen, so I'm happy you guys are branching out, doing your own thing, and best of luck to you guys.
Appreciate that, brother. We're doing our best. We're having a ton of fun. Honestly, it feels like a breath of fresh air, and so we're doing our best to have fun and provide the best kind of content that we can. So the reason that I'm asking is just I want to know if your religious views inform your views on abortion.
They do not. I commonly say, I know I haven't spoken to you guys too much, but I commonly say if I became an atheist today, I'd be pro-life tomorrow. I follow a lot of secular pro-life groups on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I know Christopher Hitchens was pro-life. If I had lost all my evidence for God today, I'd still be pro-life tomorrow.
Okay. Why?
For me, it comes down to the idea that we should treat all human beings equally.
Okay.
And then scientifically, a fetus is a human being. That one's really not up for debate.
Well, so it really depends on definitions like everything else. V, I'm sorry, you wanted to jump in?
How do you define human being?
Human organism.
Okay.
Okay.
And that cuts out sperm because that's a haploid cell, not a diploid. So it's not a human organism. Skin is not a human organism.
What if I cut off my hand and my hand just kind of flopped around for a little bit? Is it a human being?
Is your hand an organism?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's an organ. It's made up of different organs. They do not work together as one organism. Scientifically, it's not an organism.
So,
all right, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. Continue. My argument with you does not hinge on whether or not a fetus is a human being, so continue.
Sure.
Actually, mine does just a little bit. Mine does just a little bit because is an egg a chicken?
Is it a fertilized egg?
Well, let's say you don't know.
Well, then I can't tell you.
Okay.
If it is fertilized, then we know if it's a chicken. If we know it's not fertilized, then we know it's not a chicken.
Interesting. So an acorn is the same as a tree?
I would say it's the same as a tree, like a baby is the same as an adult. They're the same organism, just different stages of life.
Squirrels eat trees. I'm just imagining ginormous squirrels now.
It's this interesting conflation between the living thing and the potential for that living thing.
I think there's actually a more semantic argument to be made here about the use of being, right? We can talk about human organisms all we want, but when we say something's a human being, we evoke something very different, right? We evoke something that isn't scientific. human being is not a scientific term. Human organism might be. But when you say something is a human being, the emphasis there is on being. And I think that is why I initially was so concerned about the way you said that, because what do you need in order to be a being?
And you know what? No, I kind of agree with that. Being is more of like a philosophical term.
Right.
I'm happy with just placing my original argument with, if I was an atheist today, I still believe all human organisms deserve equal treatment. They all have equal rights, and I'm fine leaving it there.
Okay.
But the original thing I called about today was more the not personhood debate, but bodily autonomy debate.
Well, that is the crux of this.
I was listening to Matt Dillahunty.
Just can't escape it.
No.
Can't escape it. It's forever and ever.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
No.
The thing is we just...
All the people that dislike Matt call us to talk about how they dislike Matt, and like...
Oh, no, I don't dislike him.
Or just like have an argument. Like, yeah. Can we not talk about Matt on this show? Like, unless something...
we'd love to engage with you just as us.
Yeah.
So the argument I want to talk about that was brought up recently, not on the show, but somewhere else, was the violinist argument. Are you guys familiar with that?
Very.
Okay.
Well, let's hear it first so we can engage with it.
Go through it really quick so the audience knows.
Yeah, please do summarize.
Okay. I'm going to try to give like a Steelman version of it.
Cool.
You are kidnapped one day by a secret group that likes violinists for some reason. Now, I don't have anything against violinists, but I'm not a violin fan. But they like violinists. There's one violinist who is near death. They kidnap you. You're the perfect match to keep him alive, and they hook you up to him. You wake up in the hospital, and they say, if you leave and you unhook yourself from this violinist, he will die. So we're not going to let you leave. Sure. Is that like a pretty good Steelman?
Yeah, that summarizes it fairly well. Sure. Okay. What is your argument? How does that relate to abortion?
So it relates to abortion through the idea of bodily autonomy.
So your argument, to be clear, is that you shouldn't unhook yourself from this other person?
I kind of go back and forth on that one.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of a pro-life apologist named Trent Horn?
Unfortunately, yes.
He came up with a reverse violinist argument. And I think that... Can
we deal with the first one first and then maybe talk about Trent's reverse whatever?
Sure.
Because for some reason this keeps coming up as like a gotcha that a lot of people think is very pro, forced birth, and it's not. Like, if I got kidnapped tomorrow and was hooked up against my will to somebody else to keep them alive, and I woke up in a hospital, and the ultimate question here being, should I unhook myself and let this other person die? I'm going to unhook myself and walk the fuck out. And if somebody else decides, you know what, it is against my ethical and moral code to unhook myself, I am going to continue to support this person. Cool, that is their personal moral decision. At no point would I be like, we have to legislate one way or the other. That's what pro-choice means. If your choice is to decide to continue to support that violinist with your own bodily organs, cool. That's on you. That's your decision. Go for it. I hope you have all the care and the support and the financial needs met. Like, great, good for you. I'm not going to go around and turn around and say everybody who is captured by this pro-violinist group should, by law, not unhook themselves. If somebody is like, fuck no, this wasn't my decision, and I want out, they should get up and walk the fuck out. So I'm confused about the initial argument, but I understand that's not the argument you're calling in about.
Well, and I would like to answer your question. Yes, I do agree with you. I think if you don't want to be hooked up to save this man's life, you should not be forced to save this man's life.
Gohan is pro-choice, at least when it comes to violinists. Cool.
There's a couple of reasons why I don't feel like it's totally it's not analogous really at all. But we can get into that. But I'd also like to try to get into the reverse violinist argument.
But if it's not analogous at all to the point where you can agree to be pro-choice about violinists, but not about reproductive care, then why are we using this argument in the first place, reverse or forward? Like, if you're going to say, well, I agree with this, but it's not analogous, then it's not analogous and it's a useless argument for your purposes, right?
Because that argument is for cases of rape where you do not agree to that action. In rape, you don't agree to have sex, therefore you don't really bear any responsibility for...
Oh, so it is not about the life of the fetus at all. It's about whether or not you think it's justified to punish the person for a choice that they made. If you are not
I never said I'm pro-choice for cases of rape.
No, exactly. Go ahead. I'm on the same page. If you are pro-choice in cases of rape and incest,
I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
Not.
All right. Cool. That makes me respect you a little bit less, but we'll push on. For those of you, those of you who do think, and this is for general people out there, if you think that abortion is okay in the case of rape and incest, I have news for you. You're not pro-life. You are pro-punishment. You are using pregnancy as a deterrent to having sex consensually. And if you can acknowledge that the reason that abortion is wrong is because you chose to have sex versus you didn't choose to have sex, and it's not about life at all, and you're full of crap. Anyway, that's not you, Gohan, so continue.
Sure. So the reverse violinist is everything is the same so far. You decide to get up. That violinist is not your responsibility. You decide to pull the plug from yourself and leave him where he is. The only thing is, once you take the first couple of steps, you kind of fall to the floor, and the doctor says, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, if you do take yourself off, now you're in the position where you will die. So you have to remain hooked up to him, and if you decide not to, you will die. So 9 months later, you're still unconscious from that fall. The violinist wakes up, he's fine, but the doctor tells him, well, now if you separate yourself from this person over here, she will die, even though you hooked yourself up to this person. You made them completely dependent on you. But I'm going to let you go if you want, even though that act will directly kill this person.
They should go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a consistent argument.
Yeah, I have a consistent morality on this point, which is bodily autonomy, whether or not I'm the one benefiting from it.
So if you put somebody in the complete dependence upon you, you can...
The violinist didn't put me on there. The violinist was unconscious, and I was put there by a third party.
Yeah, let's say that third party was until Hertz was the violinist. I mean... Wait, you can just make it change.
The plot thickens.
They were in cahoots.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we need to do like a noir kind of reenactment.
Is it no longer okay since the violinist is directly responsible for making you dependent on the violinist? Like a fetus is dependent upon the mother?
So,
Sorry, my baby is talking in the background.
That's okay. Do you
sound effects? Cool.
Yeah, honestly, it's on. It goes with the conversation. Go ahead. If you got to go for baby reasons, we understand.
No, she's jumping. She's having fun.
Okay.
Have you seen these little jumping things before?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Cool.
So I guess where it breaks down for me is this idea that a violinist is comparable to a human. Or a violinist.
Violinists are not human. You heard it here first.
I misspoke.
Only guitarists are human.
Right? Drummers were still deciding. I'm a drummer. So what I was going to say was that a violinist would be the same one-to-one as an unborn fetus, right? As that's anyway, as a fetus.
No, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
Ahead.
Here's the deal.
Hit it.
Here's where that analogy breaks down. And it's a worldview thing, and I understand that. The reason I assumed that the violinist had no say in the matter is because consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy. And if it's an unplanned pregnancy, you did not plan in cahoots to have something else attach itself to you. Okay? It's an accident. And in most cases of abortion, 90% or more, it is accidental, and that's the reason. If there is a planned pregnancy and they decide late in the term to abort it, it is because of a life-threatening complication that should be looked at with empathy and care for everybody involved, because that's a horrible choice that nobody is making for kicks and giggles. Okay? So for me, the idea that I am comparable to a violinist who has plotted with associates to kidnap this living being and hook it up to me to utilize its energy and its life force is a fundamental misunderstanding of how pregnancy happens and whether or not it can be planned in cahoots with who the fuck ever. It's a bad analogy still.
Ooh.
Okay, so I think I just ask you a quick follow-up question on that, B? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it seems like you would be, and again, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so if I'm wrong, correct me, but you would be against abortion if it's planned and there are no, just because the mother says it's her body and she wants it out, she decided to change her mind, but it was planned at first.
I think that is a boogeyman that is created by people who don't understand reproductive care, don't understand how sex or pregnancy works. Then we could have that conversation on a one-on-one. It's her body, their body. Now, listen to me. The problem with this is that you are pulling a hypothetical fringe possibility that has been perpetuated by people who want to make people who have abortions look like monsters to inform your view of everybody. What I'm looking at here is 99.9% of abortions not fitting into your worldview. That is, the fact that you are using this analogy to point out a 0.01% of the population, however small it is, and say my view on all abortion is created by this one small demonized subgroup, that's bad reasoning, right? If we can agree that 99% of abortions that happen for other reasons, why on earth are you using this 1% to inform your opinion about all abortion? That's not helpful to anybody, to you or to anyone who's impacted by the voting decisions that you make.
Yep, I would agree with you that we should not kind of like make moral judgments based off of 1%. The only thing in the analogy I never said, the violinists planned on you getting sick. They just planned on using your body. They didn't plan on making you dependent. So the analogy still stands.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have to be somebody who said, if I leave you, I plan to make you dependent on me. That was never the violinist's idea. You said that he was in cahoots with people who kidnapped somebody else and hooked them up against their will. That seems like premeditation. Yes, but when the lady got up to walk out, the violinist didn't know she would become dependent on him. He thought he would. That doesn't fucking matter. Someone kidnaps me for 2 seconds and I'm calling the fucking cops. It doesn't matter whether or not in however many months somebody may or may not be dependent. If we're sticking to this analogy, then that violinist is guilty across the board. But my point is that you are equating a premeditated kidnap and assault with having sex and maybe getting pregnant from it. That is not. No, it's definitely not equitable. Okay, good. That's my entire point. Is that it's not.
No, it's not analogous. It is not. This is a bad argument, regardless of whether Trent...
Analogy doesn't mean equitable. I mean, like a tree being an acorn, I said earlier, it's like a baby and an adult. It doesn't mean an adult is equal to a tree.
Here's the problem.
They're analogous to each other, but they're not equal.
The analogy is a bad one. You can say something's analogous as many times as you want, but if we're going to get to the crux of the argument and that's where it breaks down, then it's a bad analogy. And I think it should be retired.
Why were you in favor of the violinist analogy, but not the reverse violinist?
No, I don't like either of them. I think they're both bad.
So here's the thing. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
What makes the reverse different? Is it that there is malicious implications on the person who put them in there?
No, not malicious implication. Again, the violinist doesn't know that the person is going to be dependent.
It's still malicious if you're kidnapping someone and hooking them up to medical equipment against their will.
Sure.
Would you agree that that's malicious?
Yes, 100%.
Would you make your decision about whether or not to unhook yourself, considering that malicious act, punishing that, or going, hey, you know what, because you hooked me up here, does it provide more or less justification for your decision?
No, the maliciousness of the act doesn't change the morality of the choice. The thing that changed it was that the actions of the violinist directly put the woman completely dependent on the violinist, whether it was known or not.
So it sounds like a punishment.
It's not. Who said it's a punishment?
Because
you're saying it's a punishment for the violinist to keep the other person alive that they made completely dependent upon them.
So making that decision on their behalf because of the circumstances ahead of time, it doesn't. It equates being pregnant to being punished. You made this decision ahead of time, so you got to stick with it. Is that it?
Who says it's a punishment?
Right. Somebody who doesn't want to have a kid, if you're talking to somebody who doesn't want to have a kid and telling them they should not have an abortion, how are you not phrasing that as a punishment? You did it, so you need to live with your choice. That's a punishment, dude. A child should never, ever be a punishment. A living person should never be a punishment for someone else's actions. That's how you wind up with fucked up people, dude.
Do you believe all duties are punishments?
I believe that state legislated duties that go against the rights of other people's bodies are punishments, for sure. Now, listen to me, Gohan, listen. The point I made with the first violinist argument stands. It stands. If that violinist gets up and realizes that they made the other person dependent, they're still going to jail for kidnap and assault. Whether or not they decide personally to hook themselves up to that person is their personal moral decision. They may be the person who thinks that is something I should do. They may be somebody who thinks I don't have to do that thing. The point that I am making is that it is still their choice. Now listen, if the government came in and was like, we are going to forcibly hook you up to that other person, I would still be against that, because my point is that bodily autonomy is sacred, okay? So I am consistent across the board. If you don't like it, if you don't agree with it, then that's fine. But don't bring an argument that is so bad that the second that we get to the minutia of it, the thing that's really going to make or break the argument, it falls apart, and say that it's still analogous. It's not. It's a bad argument, and I suggest for your own benefit, for future conversations, that you retire it, both the original version and Trent's version, because they're just bad. They're bad.
Well, I do appreciate you saying you're being consistent, and you are. It sounds like you're saying bodily autonomy is absolute, whether you put somebody dependent upon your bodily autonomy or not.
I'm saying the government does not have a right to tell me what to do with my body. That's all I'm saying.
So that's fair. Can I ask one follow-up, and then I know you guys have other callers.
We actually have a bunch of other callers.
We have a bunch. So if you want to continue this conversation, this was actually a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. So feel free to call back. We're
Yes, ma'am.
re-inviting you, and if you want to continue, cool. Don't bring back the violinist argument. It's a bad one.
Yeah, you
Or
kind
the
of
reverse violence.
yeah you kind of shifted over to not the argument when duty came up and by the way you said duty.
Okay.
So anyway, it's time.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to scoot. But yeah, just shifting that way is part of what makes that a bad argument. Just to bolster up what he's saying.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Gohan.
Yeah. I'm up to continuing it later, but thanks for the call.
Cool.
Thanks for letting me call.
Bye.
Hoo-wee. Somebody said snazzy overalls in the live chat, by the way.
Yes, they are snazzy. Okay. And I did see somebody, we can't get to them today, but can you pass me my glasses over there? Because I know somebody was like, where are these weird glasses? And they're right here. I just haven't been wearing them a lot because they catch a lot of like the light and it makes it like more difficult to actually see things because it's like glary. But here they are. They are here. I'll wear them for the rest of the show.